So this one's got to be live. All right. And just a reminder that we're not really here for the viewers. We're here for the conversation, and then a lot of people may watch it later on. And then, of course, it'll be on our YouTube as well. There we are. Come on, looking professional. All right. All right. All right. So
We
we
try.
are. So we started a little bit late, but like I was saying a moment ago, this conversation is for perpetuity. It's for the future. It's for the It's for the Sandbranch archives. 15 years ago, 15 years from now, when they decide to do an in-depth study and write a book on the development of this show, the dramaturg is going to need to have some source material to reference. And so this is a part of those archives. I always think about things like that as a dramaturg. I'm tempted to say give it a few minutes to see if anybody shows up, but then again, I'm also kind of like, I know you all are on different time zones, so I kind of think we should get started.
Okay.
All right, cool. So, um, thank you both for joining, not just this live stream, but also the journey to create this musical. And thank you both so much for your creative contributions and your time. My name is Lindsay A. Jenkins, also known as LJ, and I am the founder of Maroon Arts and Culture and the lead artist for Sandbranch. And I have with me today Kamika Spencer and Damon K. Clark, both amazing artists, both with decades of experience in the field of performance and storytelling. And I'm not going to read your bios, but would you mind introducing yourselves, giving your names, tell us who you are? And the question that I always ask people that I'm always curious about is like, what is your artistic point of view? Like, what are the stories? What's the story that you're trying to tell?
Ladies first.
Okay. So hi. Um, I'm Kamika Spencer. I am, reporting live from Dallas, Texas, and I am a writer. I'm a award-winning playwright. I'm a multi hyphenate artist. I started out as a poet, and I've just been an expression loving, arts loving. Tag all my life, like all my life. Uh, from the time when I was in high school and my mother took me to see the Amen Corner, and earlier when I was in elementary school and I was Minnie Mouse, I was the female lead in a play in sixth grade, maybe fifth grade. I've just always loved performance, and I've always had a really good and deep appreciation for performance. I'm here because I'm here for support. And I'm also here because, and this just happened today, there are still Black people out in the world who have not experienced Black theater. And that is one of those, I was just basically talking to a friend of mine about this particular event. And she literally was like, "Oh, I've never been to a play before, specifically a Black play." So, my purpose, ever waning in this industry. My artistic point of view is third person omniscient.
I love that. Tell us more. Tell us more about that.
It's it's I mean, I think I've kind of already said it. It's just rooted in my love for performance and my love for melanated um, performance. Um, I don't know. That I'm gonna stop there because I could just kind of my way through the whole thing. But I'm here because this is necessary.
You said this is what for you, Kamika? What was that last part?
Necessary.
Mm, excellent. Damon, tell the people about yourself.
Well, I too am a multi hyphenate. Um, I sing and I act. At one point, I danced. I was very bad at it. Um, I've written a number of plays. I have assisted with writing screenplays. I have done film scoring. Um, I love scoring. In fact, I love scoring and arranging. for multiple instruments. And I've also done some short story writing that I've gotten a few little recognitions here and there for. I don't have the patience for long form writing like novelization. That seems like a dream, a bridge too far. Even though I'd be able to do it, I don't think I have it in me. Um, and the other question was artistic vision.
Like your artistic point of view.
Oh, artistic point of view.
Yeah.
Hmm. Maybe because I'm a Libra rising, I don't necessarily
Oh.
have an artistic point of view, as opposed to art moves me in very specific ways at specific times, and I don't necessarily always approach art in the exact same from the same positionality. So if I moved to one of the reasons why I became this also multi-genre singer, actor, whatever, was with the Shakespeare Company for over 20 years. Did modern plays, musicals, from the classic era all the way to musicals that nobody had ever heard of because they were being written in the moment. And I'm going, no, I can't sing that note. Get some do it. you know? But my interest in art is my interest in creativity is just that, an interest in art and creativity. And I don't know how to not be involved in that way. So anything could possibly move me. Anything could move me to create, but I don't necessarily. And I think maybe it's the sorry about that. Maybe it's the human experience that I'm interested in encapsulating in some artistic way, whether it's a horrific experience that we all share or have witnessed in some way, or the most sublime, divine experience of divinity.
Mhm.
Runs the gamut. I'm just interested in being a part of storytelling in all kinds of ways.
It's beautiful. I feel the same way. I am a dramaturg. And my specialization is Black performance heritage. And for me, that goes beyond just the field of theater, but it goes into all forms of performance done by Black people, music, dance, obviously, but even gesture, facial expression. What Taraji P. Henson, I think, called like the drama on the corner, which was like a paraphrase of some other scholarship. I'm particularly interested in ritual performance, cultural performance, food as performance. And not just that, but like specific within Black culture, because for a couple of reasons, my whole thing is centered around this idea of like being a dramaturg and having to get source material. And that means asking difficult questions about who wrote this source material. If I'm reading a slave narrative, and enslaved people were not allowed to read and write. We all know that many of them learned how to do that, and we know that a lot of them learned how to do that while they were enslaved and maybe after. But to write a book and publish it, I want to know, was there any like influence over their shoulder? How did this story go from the mouth of the person onto the book, into the source that we're reading today? And what was that person's motivation? For example, I do have a little bit of a theory where I know that a lot of these slave narratives, they reference Christianity and these in religion and things like that, but we also know that it was uh, it was like white religious people that were big in the abolitionist movement. And so I think that asking difficult questions of source material, and not to disparage it, but just to get a fuller contextualization of it. The second thing is going off of this idea that it was illegal for most Black people in the world to read or write in their native language at some point in time in some place in the world. Whether you're in Africa, you're not allowed to read and write in your native English or your native language, or being in America, not being able to read and write. For me as a dramaturg, that means that the most valuable source material has to come from embodied and performative sources. And that, I think, leads to our nature as Black people to record our history and our culture through dance, drum, gesture, performance. For some reason, if I drop like a fire ass little quip and then I'm like, You know what I'm saying? The subtext is boom. I don't know how we all know that. Well, we do know because it was from the movie. But like it's just those things that are just that is a part of our archive of materials and it's a part of the archive of Black culture. And so as a person, as a dramaturg that really believes in that, I'm just I'm interested in how that can influence the way that we develop new work because I feel like the best new work is made in collaborative environments where people are talking and devising techniques and things that are happening in the body and not necessarily like a bunch of people sitting around writing on paper. I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Have y'all ever thought about any of that?
Well, I think what I hear is like taking it back to its organic, like its origins, like
Yeah.
move forward into the past. A whole Sankofa moment
Yeah.
uh, with what we're trying to do with Sandbranch.
Yeah.
I came up in the classical tradition with respect to performing arts. So it was very new for me to approach art, particularly making theater from an organic standpoint. And also, I didn't grow up in quote unquote the Black church, right? So, in fact, I grew up in a cult. So, even the things that white churches typically do foreign to me. But that's also a unique experience that can be brought to, Black people have gotten caught up in cults that were Black run, right? But I do know, having explored what church is to the Black community, to my own community, whether one is Protestant, is inside the Protestant tradition or the Catholic tradition, is that some of the first performance art that Black people get to experience, even if they've never been to a theater, is inside the church. So
Right.
these dramatizations, just the performance of the performance aspects of spirituality, be that take that however you want to, but the audience, but that performance aspect is there. It's baked in a very different way than it's baked into, say, Protestantism. Catholicism has a lot of baked in, but the audience does not participate. The congregation doesn't participate. But in the Black church, we participate, right? We're a
Yeah.
part of the performance. And I'm saying performance in a very loose way, not to disparage people's spiritual experience in church, but to say there's a ritual that we're all involved in, and there's activity and movement that you don't find in other traditions in the Catholic Protestant world, right? That you find in the Black church globally. Um, that has a performance quality to it. So even if we never have attended a play, I bet you've seen a church play or some kind of dramatization, even if it has been formally in a theater. And I find that amazing and fascinating.
This is the thing that I love about Black theater is like even if you've not been to a play, you have experienced Black theater and Black performance. You really have. And I did a workshop at CSUN yesterday, and the theme of the performing ensemble was influence. And I was like, well, for me, coming from my artistic point of view, I want to talk about the performances that influence us. And was I influenced by that production of The Lion King at Vast Performance Hall that I got tickets to for my 16th birthday? I blew my wig back. I didn't know that the puppets could be like that. And when they came in from the back of the theater, I said, oh, you can use the back doors. I didn't know. But I was also heavily influenced by my experience growing up in the church, in the Southern Baptist Black church, and also watching my mom and her sister and her cousins interact with one another. Like all of those performances have influenced me. And so I think that's why I'm like carrying a generous, broad definition of performance. I think is actually critical to our understanding of Black theater because we are not the ones that invented the proscenium where we were like, no, the audience and the performers have to be far apart from each other. And we're going to have them do their thing and we're going to do our thing as separate. Long before the Greeks did that, Black people we were performing, but we were doing it in a ritual setting, in a community setting. And I mean, if we just talk about the basics of what a performance requires, there was costume in the form of mask and other costume. There was a script, right? There are certain words and rituals and chants and things that are said the same every time. And there's blocking. You got to know the movement. Like all of that is like things that we consider to be standard to a theater performance. But in a ritual setting, it's expanded to what Damon was saying, where now you have the audience is also moving as participant. You have repetition, you have call and response, and all of these things lead to a greater spiritual energy that can ultimately lead to transformation, which is the goal of a ritual. And so that leads me to my theory around Sandbranch and what I'm hoping to do with this play, which is like, can we, through the course of like a 2-hour play, bring the audience through a ritual that leads to transformation at the end of the piece? What is that transformation, and can that transformation have a larger impact on the community as a whole? Is that too lofty of a goal?
You know,
I,
so I don't think so, because I've sat in performances that did that, not on the whole, but at the end. Excuse me, y'all. Excuse me. Um, I can't remember the name of the piece, but I attended a play at Bishop Arts Theater, and at the very end of the play, the question, like the play, we didn't know if the play was ended or not, and they opened up the fourth wall and asked the white people who were in the audience, would they trade places
Oh shit.
with the white actors who in the play did stereotypes of black people.
mm,
Nobody.
That's Fairview by Jackie
Oh,
Sibblesworth.
yes,
yep.
yes. And I was sitting, you talk about wig blown back, because it was my first time seeing something so emboldened happen and watch, be brought into this moment of gotcha. Like this is real. And we all, like I said, we were all sitting there like, is this real right now? But to actually watch the lack of transformation happen, which
Mm-hmm.
is what caught me, because I was totally transformed. I was transformed as a writer. I was like, I didn't know you could do that, as a writer. I didn't know you could, break these certain areas that traditionally, like you said, we have been colonialized to believe that we can't break. Because every time we step outside of what we believe, every time we step outside of these barriers and it feels more comfortable, we are stepping into the organic side of us because we feel it a lot of times.
Yes.
And I don't have to have scientific proof that this is what I want to do. The spirits in which I am writing on behalf of are telling me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's lofty at all. I'm on board, and I'm excited because it's a supreme challenge, but I think it can be done because there's already a calling for it.
I think so too. I'm a Virgo, so only supreme challenges for me. Okay, none of the only Doritos Loco Supreme challenges for me. Okay. Damon, what do you think? Do you think that's too lofty of a goal? Can we change the world? Can we bring about real change in a community through a black ass musical?
Yeah, when I think about just theater tradition in general, um, every era of theater that we can think of, every um, theater that may have been, say, ethnically based, but spread out ethnically into the broader zeitgeist, um, even communally, like say LGBT theater that's ethnically based or traditionally based or anything like that. Um, every single permutation of humanity that has been creating theater in any kind of way has thought this very thought. Am I am I doing too much? And said, hell no, quit. So I've never ever in life thought this is probably why I do too much. I've never ever like I've never ever thought that something that I wanted to do or something that someone else wanted to do that I thought, wow, that's cool. I want to be a part of that was too much or too lofty a goal until somebody mentions that it's too much or too lofty a goal. And then it's, oh, I thought about it and it's a passing thought. Okay. Well, guess what? Going to the moon and yet here we are. And three black women had something to do with that, right? So
Yeah.
had significant roles in that. So I never think anything is too much. I never think anything is too lofty a goal. What I do think is that the right people, or sometimes the wrong people, but it doesn't matter, come along and through those people, through the conduit of that team, of that whatever, comes another defining moment in whatever the thing is, in this case theater, right? We happen to be here right now deciding that, well, me particularly, I want to be a part of this vision cast, right? And I believe in it. So it would be kind of weird for me to think, well, I don't know if this can happen. I don't think
You know,
if you said we were going to do this on a freight ship in the middle of the Atlantic during the during the, during this shipping crisis, I'd be like, okay, let's make it happen. What do we have to do?
is the freight ship dressed like a slave ship to make a larger point? Because if so, I'm interested.
Saying.
I just think that there's no, I did not go get these 2 theater degrees for the money. I know that.
Right.
So like, I did it because I really do believe in the power of theater to make a change. I do. If I didn't believe in that, I wouldn't be able to teach it to my students and I wouldn't be able to continue to work in this field. Now, did I just apply for an insurance job today? I did. But that's different. That's bills and healthcare. You know what I'm saying? But the work, I think, is critically important. And I do think that we undervalue the abilities of theater, actually. And I think we've gotten into a commercialization of theater that has taken us away from the true foundations of theater, which are ritual and cultural performance, and not presentational proscenium performance, right? That's not the foundation of theater. So I think the further we get away from that, the more we get lost in the sauce and the less we are like doing what we really can with the work. You know, I'm a Black performance scholar and a person that specializes in Black aesthetics, Black ethos, Black culture. I don't believe in linear time. I believe in cyclical time. Everything's happening in cycles, and it's very not circular because it's not closed, but cyclical like this.
Yeah.
And so when people ask me about the future of Black theater, I mean, you got to look at the past. You can't think about the future of Black anything without thinking about the past of Black something. That's how I feel. So the thing about Sandbranch, like the story itself, we went over the story together and we'll do a lot more work around the story through the workshops, but there is a general outline. There is an idea. And I think I'm going to I'll do an IG live next week with the Sandbranch deck public for anybody that wants to see it, because the strategy, and we'll get to this in a minute, is to try to develop the audience around the piece while we're also developing the piece. Because that is true collaboration. And I think truly separating that wall or getting rid of that separation between audience and performer. But the story itself of Sandbranch is based off of the real community of Sandbranch, Texas, which is just south of Dallas. And so the community of Sandbranch, Texas, just south of Dallas, does not have access to clean drinking water like many Black and brown communities in this country. Okay, so the city of Dallas won't annex them, and they were depending on natural well water for a very long time, and now that water's been polluted. And so that story is the inspiration behind this musical. And so the fictional town of Sandbranch, the fictional town, is a modern Maroon community. So Maroons being people who have escaped oppression, escaped institution, and created their own ecosystems and societies in the wilderness so that they can define freedom for themselves. So the self-emancipated, as they say. And also what Maroon Arts and Culture is named after. And so it's only fitting that our first original piece be about a Maroon community. And so these people have been self-sustained. They've been living in plain sight. Wakanda would be a famous Maroon community. But their natural resources have been polluted by the nearby city. And so they have to ask that age-old question that Black people have often had to ask, which is, do they remain segregated and maybe have to struggle and not get the highest quality of things? Or do they attempt to integrate into the larger community and maybe at the risk of losing a little bit of sense of self? And all of this is happening because of the environmental change. And so, in that sense, I do consider Sandbranch to be an environmental justice play because I feel that we're having a lot of conversations about climate change, but we're not discussing how climate change affects Black and Brown people first and worst. Even right now, as we speak, Jacksonville, Mississippi, Philadelphia had a water problem. Flint, Michigan still ain't got no clean water. And so we think about communities that don't have access to clean water as being like far away in Africa or something. But the reality is that in America, there are many rural areas that do not have access to clean water. And for some reason, when we think rural, we think of like white people in Appalachia, but it's a lot of Black and Brown people out here living rural.
Right.
Um, and this idea is also extended to our brothers and sisters on reservations. You know, they also don't have the same access to natural resources that not only they should, but also that they need in order to be sustainable. So I don't know. I think that there's not a lot of conversation around Black and Brown communities in environmental justice. Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
I was thinking about that. I recently saw something as I was scrolling that talked about the question was, what if like was on some racist, like really, like, have you thought about this? What if water was God?
Oh, I think I saw that.
That. And so when we're talking about lack of water, so say for instance, I'm just gonna like kind of throw it out there. So you're saying if water was God, then if water is not present, then how do we who are we praying to? How do we, does it change the way we worship? And specifically in Black and Brown communities, if you when you take water away, if we were to aim that scope and put water in the God position, then it makes sense because this lack of water in these communities is very intentional. It's not by accident that Flint had dirty water. So it's like, okay, so you dirty our God if that's the point of view, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was interesting and these are things that are coming to me in this conversation. Not only that, but like the word sand branch, right? So sand is obviously like it's dry, it's there is no moisture, and then you have sand branch because I'm thinking, well, if there's a branch, there's a tree, and if there's a tree, there are roots, and if there are roots, there's water. But sand branch, is there water in those roots? So I think this is just appropriate for that. And I think, that the idea of God as water, it would be an interesting thing to talk about when we are, officially at the round table, talking about this community, because nomadic people, like animals, have to have bodies of water. Our bodies are composed, or so we've been told, like your body is water. Your body is like 98% water. So what does that mean when a human force or so-called human force can come in and replace God with with lack?
Mm. I'm gonna write that down. Hold on. Damon, I have thoughts. Damon, do you have thoughts?
I do. And to that end also, um, globally, many peoples globally um, have either deified or have personified water in the form of a deity or deities,
Yep.
including all over Africa. And of course, some of that tradition has made its way over to the United States as well. So, in a very real sense, right, um, God is water, or gods are water, depending on the water source and all kinds of things, right? Um, so, that has been a part of people's historic belief. Um, Pre-Christianity, and even sometimes conflicting with Christianity.
Yes. I am so inspired by just this moment because Damon and I had a really interesting conversation about a particular aspect of the piece that I'm trying to work out, which is there is a deity figure in the piece. There is there is a character in the play that is an ever present advising resource for our main character. And the last time I talked to Damon, we were kind of going back and forth about ideas on what that deity could be. Is there any reveal made about that character towards the end of the play? And so just this conversation around God as water, I think has really actually opened up a lot of ideas for me in that area. You nodding to them and you're like, now that you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll revisit this conversation for sure during the workshop because now I need to actually just write down one more thing before it leaves my mind because I got to utilize my tools. Okay. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, I think that water is not only a spiritual thing. One of my favorite books is that Ta-Nehisi Coates books, the fiction. Do you remember it was
Oh yeah, I have it in there. Ooh, I just
it
pulled.
his only fiction. It's his only fiction piece, but it is so good. And it basically is like Harriet Tubman was using the electricity in the water to go back and forth.
Right.
That's the summary. It was really good. So I'll pull that for our workshop too. I'll pull some of that info as well. But it's also just like in terms of Black culture, it is just a spirit. It's a symbol for renewal, for rebirth, and it's an opportunity, right, for the impossible to be made possible. Baptism, yes, but also this idea that you can be running from the dogs, go into the river, and now you ain't got no scent. You invisible now, baby, because that water did that for you. And the stories around the people who jumped off of slave ships because they didn't want to be kidnapped, and they knew what was waiting for them in America was going to be terrible, and so they chose the water. You have the stories of Igbo landing where enslaved people came off the boat and walked into the water, and they were chanting something. I can't remember what it is, but it's in the packet that we'll use. But they chose the water. And then in terms of theatrical mirrors, for my theater scholars out there that give their students Visit to a Small Planet, or for any of my students that are watching that have seen that I've made read that article, the author talks about theatrical mirrors. And so you have like Gem of the Ocean by August Wilson, that whole moment in the City of Bones where it's all about what's under the water. And so I just felt like when we're talking about making a Black ass musical, I'm like, the water's got to be a character. Is that where we're headed?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so because I had this thought. I was like, what if in the town of Sandbranch there is lack of water, but somewhere in this town something drips. It's just a drip. It represents the hope, it represents the possibilities, it represents what once was, but it is a drip. It is a drip. It is a consistent drip. And if that drip is in this God position, how does it inform? How does it thematically, what am I trying to say? How does it thematically determine how the people in this town move? How does
Mm,
it determine how they make decisions? What does it mean for some of the individuals who are closer to it than others? Maybe it's, for some of the children, it's in some old lady's house and nobody's ever been in there but a couple of people. So for them, it's like this
a mystery.
mystery. Um, And to kind of go off of that, I know I'm all over the place, y'all. I'm a water baby. So when I when I was in Egypt, I took a dream interpretation course, and one of the things that I learned that I walked away with was when you dream about water, change is coming. It's transformation. It literally that's what I now when I interpret dreams. And water is in there. I always say, change is coming or some kind of transformation is upon you or is happening. I also think about the Lauryn Hill song, Just Like the Water, where every single line is a simile or metaphor and how beautifully written that particular song is.
I'm obsessed with this. I feel like Drip is a musical number, actually.
Come on, Drip.
What you think, Damon? I feel like that's a song.
Okay.
It's the idea of like a drip being like the hope, the possibilities, a memory of once was. How does it affect the town when the drip slows down? Like maybe over time, it's like the drops are coming further and further apart, and that's how they gauge the health of the community.
Mm,
Oh, it's getting bad because what used to be a free flowing fount is now been reduced to a drip. So we'll contact Empire and see if they let us use that song. Drip, drop, drip, drip. Okay, y'all didn't want it. Never mind. It was terrible. Don't pay me no attention. I love that. I'm so inspired by this already. I really, really am. Um, the other thing about Sandbranch is I thought it was really important for us to have many, many, many different genres of music because Black people do not only exist in gospel and rap. I beg. Okay. Like y'all, like not every, but a lot of Black musicals are genre stuck, right?
right.
Even if it's a fake Black musical, like Once on This Island, it's like, oh, everything gonna sound Caribbean, and that's why people think it's a Black musical when it's not. But that's another soapbox for another day. But gospel musical, rap, hip hop musical, we finally got one successful rap musical, and even a Black man behind it. So I just feel like for me, and this is no shade to anybody. This is just the scholar in me, the dramaturg in me. I analyze everything because I want to learn what other people are doing. Damon recommended a really great series on YouTube called Wait in the Wings. I've been watching it. I just finished the Spider-Man into the
Oh, uh,
episode, but it's
I,
it's a mess. It's just like a background. It's a documentary about how various Broadway shows were made, the development processes.
well, interesting.
Um,
The original lead in Spider-Man, his last name's Carney. I can't think of his first name. Ended up in the one that I recommended to you, Hadestown. He ended up becoming the lead in Hadestown.
I know I saw that too. I saw the trajectory, and he almost didn't make it.
And he
But
almost make it. That's right.
I wish my intern was here because she loves Hadestown, and we go back and forth over it all the time. But when I just think that when I decided, okay, I got to make a Black show because I have a development model and a production model that I can't really convince other people is the way to go. And so in typical strong independent Virgo fashion, I'm like, well, if I can't convince nobody, I'm just gonna have to do it myself and be the model myself. So when I decided I wanted to make a Black play, I was like, well, it's got to be a musical, and then it can't just be one genre. There's
Right.
no genre that Black people have not touched. And so I'm really interested in creating a piece that goes from folk music to blues to rock to rap to gospel and soul and also the traditional Broadway ballad. Baby, I want all of that. What are your thoughts, Damon, as our musical director?
I
Well,
heard.
every single thing that you mentioned is all Black music. So all Black. It's all African American derived music. They're all permutations of Black music that came straight out of the Black Baptist Church. So um, the fact that it's Black people here in this country that have given birth to so many popular genres of music, and have also participated not only fully but pushed the boundaries of what classical music can do. I mean, I'm 1,000% in. Let's make it happen.
Yay. Is there a genre of music, Damon, that you're excited to see on the stage performed by Black people? Like, have you ever been like, why don't we have more Black people performing this genre? For both of y'all, actually, either one of y'all.
I don't know, because I have seen Black people perform every genre of music I could possibly that I've ever. I mean, including like Celtic music, including Tibetan throat singing, including like Black people I've experienced not just one but multiple Black people that have become very good at and touched and perform actively and make a living in just about every genre you could think of. Punk, I mean, we could go over the history of punk and how that, right?
Yeah.
Every genre, grunge, I have participated personally and sung professionally, gotten paid to sing just like so many genres of music. So I don't know that it's me being excited to see, but I think the excitement for me would be putting multiple genres of music on stage side by side, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Different types of vocal production that we don't necessarily see together. For instance, classical singing is almost never put side by side with belt and rock and whatever singing in Black and quote unquote Black theater. That happens sometimes in theater outside the Black tradition. So you have, say, Phantom of the Opera, where to be perfectly honest, the Phantom could be played very much played by a rock singer.
Right.
Very much. That's like there's literally rock guitar.
Yeah.
You have Christine, who is a coloratura soprano, singing in the heights of her voice, very classically. I've not really seen that in in Black theater, because, like you said, at times we're genre stuck. So that representation of multiple genres, and now there's like, say, Audra McDonald, who tends to produce her voice in a more classical way. But I don't know that any Black composers have put that in her voice.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Or have there been beside her a singer singing in a different genre of music, and it all coming together in a cohesive way, in the way that I've seen it in other theater traditions outside the Black tradition. So that I would love to see. That I would love to make happen.
I had not even thought about it, because my whole thing is like, we got to have every genre represented, and I'm thinking song by song. But what you've just done is take it to the next level, and even within the song, putting these genres next to each other. I'm obsessed. What are your thoughts, Kamika?
So, as a person who just recently experienced Andre 3000 live playing his flute and having a moment where he tells the audience that we're just making this up as we go. I'm coming out of that experience right now. So initially, when you were saying, what do y'all want to hear? I wasn't even thinking of the voice. I was literally thinking of just beginnings. So then that led me to think about this drip. So this drip, it represents all these things, but it's the rhythm of this community. So I like drip, this drip. And then there's this, it's not even necessarily music. It could be a mother having an anxiety attack, and her breathing now is this alt rhythm, this sub rhythm of this drip. And then maybe there's a couple making love nearby, and the moan of the man or something. And before you know it, music.
Mm-hmm.
There's this music, and we could put singing on top of that. But I was thinking of just music, period. Like, if the creation of it, and how it is created from the living essence of the people and the community. So I would like to also see things just kind of happen in the moment, which I think is going to be a big part of the audience participation part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it for me. If there is anything, I would love to see some Carolina chocolate drop style
Oh, you put me on them. I love them.
And but I would also in well not but in addition to that, I think about world music. That experience of living in Egypt really took me out of my traditional ear hustle of what I thought music would, should, can be, and the instrumentation that was used, and how those instruments can the voice imitate the instruments, or can the instruments imitate the voice? And what I come out of the divine nine tradition of stepping and using our hands and our feet and all those things to create rhythm. So I would just like to see us, really step outside of ourselves and see if something new can come from the creators of the musical side of Sandbranch. Like really step outside of ourselves and in some moments just kind of let the organicness of sound, because for me it doesn't even have to have rhythm. Sometimes it doesn't even have to technically sound good, because Andre and Erica were down on the stage, and there was a moment where the groundswell of everything, I was looking around and I was like, some of these people, it's too much for them.
Mm,
Too much for them because they don't allow themselves to be in the noise. And
yeah.
sometimes the noise is where the actual creation of things come from. So I'm just kind of interested to see how we experiment and how we allow certain things to come to us just naturally.
I am so obsessed because prior to us getting together for the workshop, Damon and I are supposed to be working on the opening number for the show so that we can bring that into the workshop with us. And I told Damon that I wanted it to be, the idea is brick by brick. And it's this idea that we start with a bare stage and that people bring found objects, what would appear to be found objects, onto the stage one at a time or in groups. And through a collaborative effort and the idea of making something out of nothing, our ensemble builds the set brick by brick. And of course, we're in Dallas. So if you are in or around Dallas, you know the church downtown. What's it called? First Baptist. My sister got married there.
It's
That's
St.
not
Paul,
far, is it?
St.
No, that was the other church.
I'm sorry.
St. Paul Methodist.
St. Paul Methodist. Thank you. I think First Baptist is the one that caught
Oldest,
me by.
oldest church. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So St. Paul Methodist, oldest church in Dallas. My sister got married there. I was the wedding dramaturg, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna do what I'm doing. And the whole story with that piece is that freedmen, people who are recently freed, would make bricks, get bricks every week, and then every week they would just come to the church and lay down whatever bricks they had, and that's how they built that building. And that
Mm.
building is still standing today, right now. It's the oldest. What is the oldest Black church in Dallas?
Mhm.
So and that is not a solo story. That is a story that happened all over the country, especially during that time period. But even right now, people making something out of nothing. But what if instead of brick by brick, what if it's drip by drip? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Uh,
and it's kind of what you're saying, where it's like not just the objects, but it's also the sounds, the movements, like all of those things are what is the foundation and what builds the community. And what I love about that is what my friend Pepper says in the comments, which is the beauty of improv and the ancestors speaking musically through the moment. No performance would be the same. I love that. I feel like no two performances should be the same. Improv is critical to Black theater tradition. Um, but also that's what we love about the theater, right? Like that's why we're not making movies. You have to be a little unhinged to put your heart and soul into a piece for 6 weeks or 6 years for it to go up for a couple of weeks and then disappear like a fart in the wind, like it never happened. We just out here for the experience, for the process, and for the moment. Each moment lives on its own. So I love the idea that every performance would be different in that way. And then also just there are artists out there that I really would love to work with that don't even know that I'm trying to work with them yet, but like True Sounds, I met him working on Twilight. He does a lot of work with like music as a tool for healing. Dr. Jovia Armstrong, sister to my friend Mashanta, she did a piece for her PhD dissertation around binaural beats, I think.
Mm,
Um, Everywhere you sat in the audience was a different experience. So you could see the show house right one day and see the show house left the other day and have two different experiences.
Mm.
I
So I'm
love.
like, what if we layer some of those things into the music, into the piece as well? I'm excited about. Before we go, I want to talk about the model, like the production idea. So I think that why I feel like this musical is a big deal is because I think that right now we are having a problem with creating a sustainable model for the production of Black theater. I think that a lot of times we consider Broadway to be the goal, and a lot of Negroes don't go to Broadway. So if you got a Black show that exists only on the Great White Way,
Mm.
okay, then it's going to be difficult for your show to stay open. I think that that's just a baseline understanding. We could pull up some examples. We could do like Ain't No Mo, the Jordan Cooper show, which I was the target audience for that show. I would have loved to see that show, but I don't live there. So I
Right.
never saw it. And I hope they publish it so that someone out here could do it. So otherwise I may never see it. And that's not just for Black shows either. The K-pop musical should have gone a lot longer than it did, but it didn't because the people that we want to engage with don't live on that block of real estate in New York. And so for Sandbranch and for Black theater production in general, I think it's absolutely critical that we develop the audience as we develop the show, because a truly collaborative model, every experience, every input, every feedback card, every talk back will add to the authentic
Mm,
fabric of the piece. And we can say, no, we believe this is a true representation because we got all walks of Black life, not just one small group, not just in the South or on the East or whatever, but we have input from many, many different people, because we are not a monolith. And so we are not going to make a show that represents us as such. And in order to do that, we have to make sure we're getting input, feedback, and also bringing people along for the ride, because it really only takes one or two interactions for Black people to feel like y'all family. So if I be like, hey, cousins, you came to the last presentation, we got a stage reading, get the update on the show, I feel like they'll support. And then that way, by the time the musical is fully up on its feet, ready for its rolling premieres, then we won't be out here just now telling people about it, begging people to show up. People will actually be excited for it. They'll be looking forward to it. They'll be like, they'll watch the show and they'll hear a line of dialogue and they'll be like, I actually said that in the workshop. That was my feedback.
right.
As a dramaturg, I do that all the time. I'd be like, I actually said that in the meeting and it's in the play now. So there's that. I also think that it's super critical for Black plays to tour. And I think that when we think about the Chitlin circuit, the thing we don't like about the Chitlin circuit is the content. And that's an easy fix because there are many, many, many creative Black people writing good ass stories in 2024. And we have more access and more networking available than ever before. So I think that the only thing we didn't like about the Chitlin circuit was the content, but there were more Black owned theater spaces. There were more Black playwrights, working actors, and other theater jobs, right? Designers, technicians, directors, and things like that. When we had that Chitlin circuit in place, than there are right now. In America in 2024, there are only 8 theater houses owned by Black people in the country. During the Chitlin circuit, there was over 100. So um, I think that we have to, like, again, when thinking about the future, I do think it's important that we consider the past. And so I think that it is critical that we take this show to Atlanta, to Baltimore, to New Orleans, to Houston, to DC, to New York, to Chicago, but also to maybe take it to Gary. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to take it to the streets, because when I was single and dating, and my best friend, I was talking to her about blackpeoplemeet.com because it had just been invented. My best friend still goes, blackpeoplemeet.com, Black people meet in the streets. What you need a .com for? And she ain't never lied, because Black people do meet in the streets. And that's what I feel about this piece. I feel like this piece is going to be Black people meet in the streets.
Mm.
So that's what I think. That's what I hope to happen. And then along the way, we gather a collaborative group of artists that each have a real stake in the play, not just creatively, but in terms of equity, right? A percent ownership of the piece. This is a whole nother tangent. but nonprofit theater and commercial theater are not the same. We out here trying to make commercial theater, we try to get commercial theater results with nonprofit models, and
Right.
that's never going to work. It's never going to work. So the piece will be developed under the umbrella of Maroon Arts and Culture. And then when it's finished, it'll flip to a commercial property. Maroon Arts and Culture as an organization will have a percent ownership as the developing entity. You, Damon, and you, Kamika, will have a percent ownership of the piece. All of the collaborators that we brought along the way will have a percent ownership of the piece so that we are all invested, truly invested in the success of the musical. And that way, after we have a successful soundtrack, we get a Grammy for the soundtrack. You know what I'm saying?
And then now you're going after things that we shouldn't even be concerned about.
Well, this is a whole. You're right about that, but my other thought is that the soundtrack has to come out before the show's even done,
Absolutely.
Yes.
because I
Absolutely.
need people tapping their feet to the music in order to get them excited to see the play. And so you got to, again, this is the Virgo in me, but I'm like the Grammy, not for the accolades, but for the PR.
For the eyeball.
We turn
Grammy
in
ball.
Would
Negro
you
fund.
say, Mika?
A Grammy nom and or win means eyeballs. And that's
Oh,
very for a performing arts property for an IP.
That's what I'm thinking. What were you about to say, Kamika?
I said we digitize it and turn it into NFT, Negro funded theater.
I'm screaming. I'm screaming.
I would screenshot this. I would screenshot this chat and turn it into an NFT.
Yeah.
No, I actually, so we have the artwork that's on my shirt right now and that we'll see associated with the play is commissioned artwork. It's ours, it's original. And it was made by a Black artist who has equity in the piece, right? So as we go along, even in the artwork, right? As Sam, we have a successful tour. We using her art on the cup for the cover art of the album. And every time the piece gets paid, even she gets paid. And then the reason why this is because I'm an emergent strategist. Okay. I understand what Adrienne Marie Brown was talking about. And so if we do it this way, then we create financial security, hopefully, for many, many Black artists. And if the model is successful, they can take the money that they make from Sandbranch and use it to fund their own projects and maybe even use the model for their own projects. And now we've created a systematic change in the way that Black theater is produced in America. Because once we sell them streaming rights to Disney Plus for 75 mil, like Lin Manuel did, now we each got $1 million. I mean, 75 people, $1 million each. That's enough to shift the whole planet, I think. Is
Right.
if we can figure out a way to get 75 Black artists $1 million, I think we'll change. We might be able to reverse climate change with that kind of energy. I don't know. But that's why I feel like it is a really big and lofty dream and a big goal. It's my life's work. It's what I was put on this earth to do. And I just feel really grateful that not only have I found a path to do it, but that I also have people that support me along the way and support the project. And I just really, really, really love um I just really love being able to work on this with my friends. That's the best part. That's the best part. Y'all have any thoughts on that model? We'll refine it in the workshop. We'll talk through it. Pepper wants to know if do we keep the staging super simple and bare to perform anywhere? I think so.
I do too. I agree. I was thinking, even like people's living rooms. When you were talking about, it'll be in DC, it'll be in New York, it'll be, in Gary. I was also thinking of like it's the Underground Railroad of like in my mind there's this like alternative spaces. Um, it's like the Underground Railroad where it's these continuous spaces in these different cities where this is happening, and they are none of them are traditional theater spaces. So like the corner, like Camp Wisdom and the corner of Camp Wisdom and Hampton is could be one of those spaces, right?
Absolutely, why
So
not?
that's what that's how I'm perceiving it.
I think so too, because when I think about a play called Sandbranch based off of a real community of Sandbranch, like we need to be able to perform it there. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so I feel like for me, that's the bar. Like if we have to be able to perform it in Sandbranch, in order for it to actually work. And it's a very rural area with not a lot. And I think that, oh, this is the thing, but I think that it needs to be in the round, right? Like we can talk. This is that, but I do think that Black theater, I think that it almost requires to be in the round, but we'll see. And but I think that there could also be different versions, right? Like let's say that, Broadway is never an aspiration, but let's say it's an invitation, right? That we could create something that would work in a space like that. But like as far as the tour is concerned, and if we're talking accessibility, then that's what we definitely have to look at. Yeah, I just finished working on the brother sides at the Geffen, and we did a talk back with the director Bijan, and something he said really stuck with me. The brother size was performed in the round, and it was a small cast, just three people. And what Bijan said was about this, because I asked him what was it like, about directing in the round, and he was like, the nature of this play is if you took these three characters out on a street corner and had them just start performing in this play, the natural shape that the crowd would take around the piece would be a circle. And that really just stuck with me. And I said, you know what? You on to something. You on to something there. Yeah. You have any thoughts on that, Damon?
No, I was thinking that some of the most accessible, from an artist standpoint, from some of the most accessible shows that I've ever worked on or been in have been modular, in that you could have a cast of 150 people, but then you could also have a cast of five. And
Mm-hmm.
that still works with some cuts and some edits that make sense. Or maybe the show is 3 hours in its greatest iteration, but only 45 minutes in its small a show that is very modular, but still retains the core story, and the thing that makes that piece special, um, is highly doable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think so too. The word modular, I think, is really important when we think about how we travel this piece. And I think that I'm a dramaturg, so I'm here for the process. I am not pressed to get this show on its feet in the next year or 2 years or even 3 years. I really foresee like a 4 or 5 year development process at least, at least. But the benefit of that is the whole time we're doing that, we're also developing the audience, right? But at the same time, we're doing different iterations of the play. We could do Sandbranch, the poetry slam version. We could do Sandbranch the concert. We could do Sandbranch the stage reading, obviously, but then we could do maybe we do a workshop presentation that is just the movement, and
Or,
it's what do you say, Kamika?
or the monologues.
Or the Sandbranch monologues, and all of those things exist and live as their own version of Sandbranch, and they are performable, and they are producible, and they are all leading up to the larger project. And I think if we embrace a lengthy development process, then we actually can explore all the different versions of the piece. I wrote a grant application for what's that program called in New Orleans? Was it a Studio in the Woods? I think so. Where as a person that believes in embodied dramaturgy, I was like, I would like to come to the woods of New Orleans
Mm-hmm.
and do foraging and natural experiments and go to Congo Square on Sundays and have embodied experiences, process all that information, synthesize that information into a chapbook, a book of poetry that's small, and commission maybe an illustrator to have pictures that are also inspired by the piece and make the Sandbranch chapbook. And then not only does that help get the word out about the piece, and not only does it help me as the lead artist develop the story, but it becomes a piece of the archive and a piece of material that you can give to the collaborators to help them understand where we're going and the story we're trying to tell, and whatever other information I get from that experience. And so in that sense, even the development process is experimental and abstract, but I just feel like that's the way it should be. So I hope that I'm glad that you all see the vision, because sometimes it's hard to explain it to people. But I guess that's what they say. If you know, you know. Those who get it, I guess is what they say. Do y'all have any other things you want to add before we hang it up today? I'm gonna close this out, but I just want to give you all space to say things, ask questions, any comments or anything you want to add. You're like, no, we done. It's like late in
Or the people
no,
that
for YouTube. Oh, and for people on comments as well. If anybody has any comments, questions, or anything like that. But for Kamika and Damon as well, if you have anything you want to leave us with.
I just want to say thank you for thinking about me. Um, because I still sometimes because I get caught up sometimes in the fact that I didn't my love for theater didn't transfer into my education process. Like I was a late bloomer, getting to a point to where I formalized my love for theater. So sometimes I talk about, like I told y'all, third person omniscient. I talk about it as if I don't have like ownership in it. So when people think about me, I was recently commissioned by Bishop Arts Theater, and I was just really thankful because sometimes I don't know what it is. I just don't include myself in the canon, even though I'm in the canon. So I'm really deeply honored. I think the story of Sandbranch that you brought to me that I was not aware of at all is a story worth telling that needs to be told and needs to be told in a very unique way. And I'm really glad that you're rooting it in the presence of organic Black culture. Like we are literally on our way to creating a decolonized peace in America.
Oh,
So I'm just thankful and grateful to be a part of it.
Damon, you have anything you want to add?
No, same. I'm absolutely thrilled to be a part of this process. I too am an Earth sign and probably the slowest moving of the Earth signs. Um, Only second to a Virgo. you know, um, I think in order of moving and moving and shaking. I think Capricorns beat us. They move fast. But
Yeah.
that said, to that end, I really am fascinated by the approach. Now, making theater is a long term process that can take like 5 years and all this kind of thing. Um, but the combination of early engagement, because oftentimes like the whole development process is I'm the composer and I've been writing this for 3 years, and then you engage a producer to try and get involved, and then now and then that's another like couple of years, a year or so, and then you engage an arranger to make it. So it's more like it's this. This process in its long term nature is very appealing to me, because it feels more like organic meandering. I know that sounds almost almost without. It sounds like I'm positioning it as though it has no direction, but that's not what I mean by that.
Right.
It feels like, oh, this feels we've done this thing, now this feels like the part of the process. So let's do this part of the process, as opposed to this is how it's traditionally done. The composer does the thing, and then the producer gets involved, then the arranger gets involved, which is fine. That's all fine. I've been a part of that process time and again, and I'm disinterested in it because that's why I haven't done any theater for a very long time. New theater.
Mm-hmm.
This though, it feels like the creative process is continuing as opposed to just the construction process. It's not you create and then we all have to construct after that our piece of the puzzle. We're all getting to continuously create through this timeline, and then the audience gets to be involved to help create through the timeline. I'm really fascinated by that. And also, again, like I said, I'm a slow moving creature, so uh, I enjoy slowness. I enjoy being able to sit in a space for a while in order to wring out everything that's possible in those moments. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
And then now it's time for this next creative process We can wring out that creative you know, I think this is going to be a very fascinating process. So I'm really excited to be person. And thank you for thinking of me, my girl.
I could not think, I don't know who else I would call. Like, yeah, I don't know. I love the word meandering to describe it because I meander all the time. I was telling somebody the other day, I got two speeds, meandering and slow jog. Okay. In case of emergency, it's a slow jog. Everything else is a meander, but that don't mean I don't know where I'm going. I'm
Right.
just meandering to get there. So I love that to describe as a way of describing the process. I am very much influenced by a book chapter in a book. This is inside baseball because I'm a nerd, but there's a book called Black Performance Theory, and within that book, there's a chapter by Nadine George Graves, or is it Graves George? One or the other. Damn, I wish my intern was here, because she would have slid that in the comments for me. But it's called diasporic spidering or spidering diaspora. I don't know. I'll ask my intern later. But it's this idea that, like, a lot of times we think about a tree and a family tree as having roots, which is linear and stationary. But instead, we should really think about a spider web, or in my interpretation, a universe where you're at the center and you go over here to get a little something, you go over here to get a little something, you go down here to get a little something. And then, of course, you at the center are also a little something. And it's this idea that you can pull from all directions instead of, like you were saying, this, then this, then this, then this. I don't think that that's the way to do it. Yeah. Did you have something, Damon? I feel like you had something on your heart just now.
Oh no, I was calling my dog.
Oh,
That's all.
Damon, I want to know what was in your cocktail because you make the best. Damon's an excellent chef and cocktail maker. So, what were you drinking? Just tell us, just because I got to know.
Well, this is a little summer thing that I learned for brunches. I have a couple of brunch cocktails that you gotta nurse them, otherwise they'll put you on your back, and then you'll wake up a few hours later, not necessarily refreshed, but you. Yes. But this particular one is a bottle of champagne,
Okay.
Pinot Grigio, and a half a bottle of pomegranate liqueur
Mm.
with just the tiniest splash of sparkling water.
Okay, we'll just put a big bookmark in that because our friend, we meeting up next weekend. You had said you was gonna make us cocktails, so we gonna put a.
I don't remember saying that, but I'm fully in agreement with it.
Okay, I was talking to our other friend Bridget. What's the name of Bridget's dance company? So we
Be
can Be More Dance. I was talking to our friend Bridget at Be More Dance in Dallas, and we had decided that you were going to make us cocktails, and Kamika coming too. So we'll keep that one in the parking lot. Thank you both so much for agreeing to be a part of this project. I'm gonna we'll post your bios later, but I just cannot express to the general public the wealth of knowledge and experience that is contained in these two humans. Just decades, and not, I won't say decades and decades because that makes you sound elderly, but I will just say a wealth.
in my elder bag now. What you mean?
I mean, decades upon decades. Decade.
Say it. Let the people know.
Let the people know, because sometimes people be thinking I be saying what I'm saying because I'm young and inexperienced, but then I'm like, but all my friends be in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they with it, so I don't think that's it.
Yeah.
But published authors, performers, opera singer, playwrights, musicians. That's what these people are bringing to the table. So I mean, if you're a Dallas based artist and you are interested in gleaning just a little bit of wisdom from these folks, send us a message and we will make sure you get involved with the workshop. If you are a student, if you are a theater student and you are interested in engaging in a free opportunity, and I might, depending on how this fundraising campaign goes, might even have a little stipend for you. But if anything that we talked about today is of interest to you artistically or could benefit your own artistic practice, please reach out, because we, again, want to make sure this is a collaborative process and we want to bring as many artists to the table as possible. I value your input, and I look forward to hearing from a lot of different people. Um, we are fundraising for this workshop. The link is in the bio. So if you have it in your heart to give, I ask that you go ahead and give now. We're going to pass around the plate. It's a virtual plate. But it is in the link is in the bio, so please feel free to donate. And my heart is very full. So I just thank you all so much. You all are friends, but you're also mentors and inspirations to me. So I just feel very honored and appreciative that you've agreed to help me with this. All right, y'all. That's going to be it for us. If you have anything else, if you need anything, hit us up in the DMs. And we will see you in Dallas on October 26th and 27th. If you're in the area and you just want to come and check it out and see what we can hear about what we did and come party with the group, we're going to have an open reception on the 27th. So everyone's invited. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And you too have a wonderful evening.
Bye, LJ. Bye, Kamika.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.